en fait. Oui.
Revenue is vital from oil palm for the state government of Sabah. Before, we were highly dependent on forest revenue, something like 95%, but now it's only down to about 5%. Apart from oil or gas and other means of revenue generation, oil palm is a major one. The laws have always been good. It's a matter of tinkering with them to make them more up to date with the situation today. Things like increasing the fines. In the early days, perhaps the fines were very low, but then it reflected the level of economic development at that time. And now we have made them more punitive. We, for example, have made it compulsory that people should go to jail if they are found guilty of committing forest offenses like illegal felling.
Personally, I feel that a lot of people, whether children or people from the city especially, who have not seen the rainforest before, or a forest in general, they don't appreciate the forest because they do not know what's in the forest. They feel that the forest will always be there, and they don't know the animals that's there in the forest. So we need to educate them. We need to show them all this beauty, you know. So Murad, that's the Bristlehead Tower. That is
We have successfully rehabilitated more than 300 to 400 orangutans. These orangutans that we have are basically orphans, and these orangutans come to Sepilok because they are places where through agriculture development there is habitat was compromised. The orangutans is in Schedule 1 of this enactment, and they are totally protected. Any illegal killing or poaching of an orangutan, when a person is prosecuted, he can be jailed for a minimum of 6 months to 5 years, and is also fined more than 50,000 ringgit. So it is a very heavy penalty.
Dulu kami punya keluarga bukan orang senang, kami orang susah. Jadi sekarang ni selama ada kelapa sawit, ada potensi harga baik, kami pun ada senang sikit lah. Sebab kerja lain pun tidak ada sudah. Sebab kami pengalaman memang sawit juga. Daripada memang saya punya bapak pun sawit juga. Jadi memang sawit lah. Itu saja yang saya boleh buat.
So oil palm as itself is good. The negative side of it is when people get overzealous with their development and they start to ignore environmental rules and regulations like keeping the riparian reserves along river banks, going up to steep areas which accelerates erosion, usage of chemicals in an improper way.
Sebenarnya saya ada menggunakan racun rumpai, tetapi dengan kadar yang sedikit jika itu keperluan. Secara amnya, secara keseluruhan saya tidak menggunakan. Sebab racun rumpai ini sebenarnya mempengaruhi pertumbuhan kelapa sawit. Dan sekiranya keperluan memerlukan, baru saya gunakan racun rumpai dalam kuantiti yang teratur dan mengikut kepada sukatan.
7 hari bulan 12 kami masuk di sini. Tahun 70-an. Mula-mula ini kebun lembaga sudah buka. Sudah tanam sawit. Tapi tidak ada karena tikus memakannya. Jadi dari tahun 72 kami bersih. Saya sendirilah. Saya bersih ini kebun. Saya tanam sendiri. Tahun 72 lagi. Sudah itu saya sudah buka semua ini kawasan. Sudah itu sawit yang duluan saya tanam. Sudah 30 tahun. Susah mau ambil buah lagi. Jadi saya tumbang. Saya tumbang tahun tahun 89 saya tumbang. Jadi saya tanam balik inilah. Kedua kali saya tanam.
In fact, we have more than 49 to 50% of Sabah, which is still under permanent forest cover. Okay, and that's more than most other even developed countries have. And from that percent, totally protected areas is 15%, and that is even more than the baseline standard, global accepted standard, which is 10% to be totally protected. Our challenges now is habitat fragmentation, which we're trying to look at developing corridors to connect these wildlife patches. So genetically, the long-term survivability of wildlife in that areas in general, and particularly orangutans, are safeguarded.
canopée, c'est là-bas.
Et puis voir ce que vous pouvez faire, ce qui vous intéresse, où vous vous sentez.
How are you? How have you been? What did you do? Wow, amazing picture, man, Jesus. When did you get that?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago?
Yes.
You were with Rudy? Or?
Yes.
Wow. This place is very interesting for in terms of science, but also in conservation, because we can really see if corridors are really working. So corridors have not really been established, but we have a kind of some kind of natural corridors along the river between some fragments. So we can look at the use of these corridors by wildlife, and that's what we are doing. We're using, for example, camera trapping as well. We monitor some corridors between two fragments of forest and between the river and the palm oil plantation. So see how wildlife is using it. Not everything is protected. There's still land, private land that is not protected, and it's owned by people who have the choice of exploiting it or giving back to conservation. If we manage to find a balance between conservation and development, and provide guidelines on how to best plant and how to best manage the landscape, I think we can keep the wildlife and also develop the land for agriculture.
Without oil palm revenue directly for the state government, then it would not have been possible for us to embark on conservation measures. to reserve more lands for protection, reserve more lands for conservation, impose certain standards, increasing the behavior, the standards that we impose on our loggers, particularly like reduced impact logging, putting more areas under totally protected status, TPAs and all that. Then there are other zones within the forested areas which we have set aside for fast-growing trees and plantations, like what you see here. This is an example. So these sort of fast-growing trees will substitute or reduce the pressure on the natural forest. So much so that in the end, maybe in 20 years' time or so, we do not have to touch the natural forest anymore.
Condo, by the way.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.